Please welcome your host, Dion Taylor.
Hey guys, Dion Taylor here. Now, you've probably heard of case summaries, right? If you're not sure what that is, that's actually a section on a case form. Copilot summarizes the entire case based on case data and related data. Now, previously, the only thing that we could do is just enable those case summaries, just turn them on, and that was it. However, today we also get to configure which tables and which columns are going to be used for Copilot to generate that summary. Let's take a look. So before I dive into the configuration of these case summaries here inside of Dynamics 365 Customer Service, let me first show you what a case summary actually looks like. So I'm going to click here on my missing parts case, which is related to Maria Campbell, who's one of my customers. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that up, and you'll notice that once you enabled case summaries in Dynamics 365 Customer Service, you will now see that summary section that will become visible on your case forms. I did want to mention that if you have the need to configure this summary section on a custom form, that's definitely also something that you can do as well. So in order to access the summary, you can just go ahead and click on this little expand button, and that will kick off that summarization. Now, the way that this works is it actually looks at the configuration that you have set up inside of the admin center. Because what we're doing there is we can actually point to columns that are either on the source table, which is the case table, right? So customer, subject, priority, case status, any of these fields that you see here. And by the way, I did want to mention that when you configure this, you'll notice that not all of the fields will be available to point Copilot to, right, as the source data because of the data types. Not all of the data types are yet supported. So that's one thing that we can do. The second thing that we can do is that when we're actually pointing it to a lookup field, remember, a lookup field really represents the relationship between the case table and the lookup table. Right. So in this particular instance, we have the customer lookup, which can be a lookup to an account table or a contact table. And in this particular case, you can see that a contact has actually been populated in the customer field. And that actually means that from the case perspective, there is a many-to-one relationship, right? We can have many cases for one customer, right? We can also only have one customer populated in this lookup field. Now, when we're talking about the other side, where we can have one-to-many relationships, one case can have many records from other cases, right? Such as emails, right? One case can have multiple emails, one case can have multiple appointments, etc., etc. That's also something that we can configure. So the configuration that I've done, or that's actually out of the box, I should say, is where the summarization also looks at related emails and then the body of those related emails. And if you look here at this email, you can see here that there's an email that I've sent to this client, right? So what Copilot is doing is it's grabbing certain pieces from that email and it's entering that, it's using that, right, to generate that summary. So that's how it works. Now, let me show you, first of all, how you can enable these case summaries in Dynamics 365 Customer Service, and then let me show you how we can change the configuration as well. So here we are in the Customer Service Admin Center, and this is where we can enable these summaries, and we can also manage the data points for that summary. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click here on productivity, and then you'll see the summary section here as the second item on this screen. So I'm going to go ahead and click here on manage. And then we can see here the case summary section. So the only thing I have to do here to turn this on is to click on this little button to make sure that this is checked to make these case summaries available to our agents. In order to manage the data points, right? So this is really what are the columns that Copilot will use to generate these case summaries. That's what we're doing over here. So I'm going to click here on Manage Data. And the first thing you'll notice here is that some of these columns that you see here, the summary name and the record type, that's already been selected, right? We cannot change this case summary to actually be related to a different table. Now, if you want to create these summaries for other tables, this could even be done for custom tables as well, then definitely check out next week's video because I'm going to show you exactly how to do this in a video next week. Now, the description of the record type, as you can see, is editable, so we can make changes here. And the reason for that is because, right, as you can see here, the description actually helps Copilot understand what type of table this is and how it's used within your organization. So if you're using cases differently from a support ticket type of functionality, then that's where you can actually put the description of that here below the description of the record type. Now, in my case, I'm using it as support tickets, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that. When you click on the next button here, that will take you to this screen, which is step 2 of 2. And this is really all of the data points that Copilot is using to generate those summaries. So you can see this is purely out of the box. I just spun up a new environment and this is what came out. So you can see here the different data types. We have a 1-to-1 data type. And what this is this is actually going to allow us, let me actually click here on add data so you can see what I'm talking about. I have 1-to-1 and 1-to-many. And the 1-to-1 option will allow us to either select these columns from our root record type, which is the table that we're configuring this for. So in this case, it's the case table, pun intended, right? But we can also take a look at other tables that we have a many-to-one relationship with, right? So and this is again from that case perspective. We can have one customer per case, right? We have a lookup to the customer, and that's what you're seeing that over here. So that's how the 1-to-1 data type is being used. You also see the 1-to-many data type. So this is really the 1-to-many relationships from that case perspective, right? So you can see here, for example, the notes entity, which I already have configured over here, right? But this is really where we can have multiple notes related to one case. That's what this represents. Multiple letters, right? Multiple leads, etc. So what we can do here is once we actually select any of these relationships, and let me actually go ahead and grab, can I grab something else? We can do any activity, right? And then we can say, what is the data field? What's the column on that table that we want to include? And that's what you're picking over here. So let's say I'm going to say we want to enter the description of any activity that's in there. And then lastly, we can enter a description of what type of data is actually stored in that column. Again, so Copilot understands that a little bit. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention here, and you kind of see that here up top already, right? That we're getting an error here that's giving us some information about the limits here. So when we're looking at the 1-to-1 data types, we can actually have a maximum of 10 selections. So we can have 10 of those lines that are a 1-to-1 data type. For the 1-to-many data types, we can have a maximum of 6 selections. So that means, right, that's really those different data fields. However, there can only be 3 tables, right? That's what you're seeing over here. So 3 different tables can be associated with that. And then we can have a limit of 6 columns, right? Divide all over those 3 different tables. So that's why it's giving me that error. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we cannot edit this, right? The relationship that you see here, where it's looking at the email that's related to the case or the conversation, right? That is related to that particular case. So keep that in mind as well. If you want to go in here and you want to disable some of these things, you can do that. So let's say you are not interested in adding any information from the product lookup on that case, right? Let's say you don't care about that. You can just go ahead and uncheck that. And obviously you can also go ahead and remove that as well if that's something that you wanted to do, right? But that's one way of doing it. And then again, just uncheck where you're not using, and then you can hit save and close when you're done. Or also, right, you can add your own one-to-many or one-to-one data type selections here as well, and then build it out that way. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention here as well is when you scroll down a little bit further, you also notice that you have the ability to exclude information from the summaries. So once you click here on specify information to exclude, this is what you'll notice. So you can specify up to 10 email addresses to exclude. As you can see, you can just go ahead and click on that and then add those email addresses just here in this particular field here. Now, what that means is that any emails coming from those email addresses are not going to be included in that case summary. And this could be relevant because maybe you're sending automatic emails to your customers that create a case, right? They could go to a portal and then create that case, and then you will have Dynamics 365 customer service automatically send an email saying, hey, thank you for logging this case. Somebody's working on it, right? All that type of stuff. Maybe you don't want that in a case, right? So you can exclude those emails in here. Then we can also specify up to 3 disclaimers, headers, footers, and other boilerplate text that appears in emails, case comments, or posts. Now, think about emails that your customers might be sending that has that little blurb on the bottom that says, this email is only intended for the person that's in the to field, blah, 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 all of those types of things. You can actually add that type of text here as well, so that that's also going to be ignored when Copilot is going to generate that case summary. Now, a couple of things that I want you to be aware of, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to go back here to the case summary. Click here on Manage Data. I'm going to go to the next. When you are configuring this, and if you are setting up these relationships, you have to make sure that the customer service rep has access, read access to any of those related tables, right? So that includes here this one-to-one to the product table, but it also includes here the note table and the email table and the conversation table, right? If they don't have access to read that table, that's going to be an issue. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that Copilot actually needs there to be a minimum of about 38 words that are specified across all of these columns that you see here, that we configured here. That's what it needs to create that summary. It doesn't mean that all of the columns that you see here need to have data in it. It means that all of the words in those columns combined, they need to be 38 words or more. If there's less than that, then the summary will not be generated, and you're going to see a message that says there was not enough information to generate that summary. So let me go back here and show you that as well. I'm going to go back to my customer service workspace. Let's go ahead and open up another. Let's do contact information required. This doesn't have a lot of data in there. Let's try to run that summary again. And this is the error that you see if there's not enough data in there. So pretty cool stuff, right? And if you have some custom tables that you created, you can also generate summaries from those as well. You can include them in that summary. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss another video again. Until next time, thanks for watching.